welcome to Tom Myers versus the rest of the world. This is the 2024 Best of and Unheard Bits. So far, Part 1. In this episode, you will hear some of our best moments, including some bits that didn't quite make the initial airings. Joining me tonight are Jeff Hyson, Gina Brown, Michelle Wojciechowski, Polite Kitty, Chip Jones, Valerie Pascal, Davin Rosenblatt, Joshua Postel, Matt Connarton, and Lucy Strasball. It's a new year, and everyone's celebrated a little differently. In my hometown of Baltimore, the new year was celebrated with thousands of pounds of fireworks and explosives to say goodbye to 2023. And not wanting to be outdone by the residents, the city also decided to celebrate the arrival. Speaking of Baltimore, former Mayor Sheila Dixon, in an effort to kickstart her campaign to take back her old office, was at a campaign event and hecklers started throwing clothes at her. It just shows how weak she's gotten politically. It used to be that she was weak because she was caught stealing gift cards meant for a charity and she kept her $83,000 a year pension. Now she looks weak because she gets easily distracted by Lululemon products. Mm-hmm. On their Twitter X profile, C-SPAN commemorated the end of the first session of the 118th Congress by posting a typo and that it was the end of the fist session of the 118th Congress. Man, Lauren Boebert's really been busy this year. Lauren Boebert announced she's running for re-election to Congress, but in a different district. She will no longer be representing Colorado's 3rd congressional district. So she's ditching her constituents like they were her date at a musical. So Iowa Republicans held their caucus on Monday. As predicted, Donald Trump was the winner among all the caucus goers. It's fitting in a state where the mindset of most of the voters that day was, I may kill someone in a multi-car pileup in this weather, but fuck it. Various numbers were thrown out on the local media outlets there in Iowa. -6, -4, feels like -45. And once they stopped talking about the chances of a candidate not named Donald Trump winning, they gave the weather forecast for that day. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis came in a distant second, followed closely by Nikki Haley. It's a miracle Ron DeSantis did so well, considering his target demographic only votes for him if they have the effects of heat stroke. Overall, it's unsettling that Republicans are still willing to go for a candidate that could receive a conviction in a criminal trial and possibly be the first president who would sign bills into law while simultaneously getting butt-fucked by his cellmate.
Oh, jeez.
For legal reasons, I don't want Donald Trump to be butt-fucked by his cellmate. That much. Donald Trump was in court this past week at his civil trial for defamatory remarks he made against his sexual assault victim, the writer E. Jean Carroll. He released a courtroom sketch someone made where he was seated next to Jesus. Now, Jesus did used to hang with derelicts and thieves, so that image tracks. Oh, of all the times not to portray a crucifixion scene.
Oh,
gosh.
When leaving his court appearance in New York City, Trump was spotted with red spots on his hands. There was some speculation that it was syphilis, but I think it's something far more simple. Satan trying to escape. In an interview, Ben Carson defended Trump, saying, quote, he's not a highly vindictive individual, which is easy to say if, like Carson, you've just woken up from a nap that started in 2010. Well, New Hampshire voters participated in their primary, which of course saw Donald Trump win over Nikki Haley. It's a shame for Haley because she's the type of person who in school would study and do all of the assignments, while Trump is the kid who would bring porn and show everyone while it was hidden in his textbook. Trump is all but saying that Republicans shouldn't vote for Nikki Haley because she's a woman. In fact, his campaign slogan is really close to being, I am not woman, hear me shit myself. In the exit polling for New Hampshire, 8% of the GOP primary voters identified as Democrats. I'm not sure I could cross over to influence a Republican primary. Both Nikki Haley and Donald Trump are basically conservatives. We can't forget that for Democrats, choosing between Haley and Trump is, for the rest of us, choosing whether we want to have hard stools that we really have to strain to pass, or whether we want Crohn's disease.
Oh
my God. Very specific.
Trump supporters are complaining that Democrats and unaffiliated voters are voting in their primary. They're insulting them, which is quite ironic because you want them voting for your candidate when it comes to the general election. You want to do everything you can appeal to non-Republicans. For example, you may not like your girlfriend's parents, but you have to be nice to them, so your conscience will let you get to third base with their daughter. A lot going on this week. Right before we started recording, an appeals court ruled that Donald Trump did not have immunity in his 2020 election interference case. We just want to say a lot of things can happen between now, when we're recording this, and when the episode goes out. For example, Trump could appeal to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court could refuse to take the case, or the lizard form that inhabits Trump's shell will say, fuck it, and leave to look for another life form. With Ron DeSantis hoping it's him. The Supreme Court, speaking of which, will hear a case about whether Donald Trump can be on the presidential ballot in Colorado. At the Supreme Court, the justices are allowed to interrupt the attorneys arguing the case. I don't know if you knew this or not. Basically, the Supreme Court is like a podcast where one of the hosts is a racist. And ironically enough, the one who stays silent is Clarence Thomas. It was recently revealed that Mar-a-Lago has a secret room where more classified government documents may have been kept. No one was more surprised than Trump, who didn't know that that was a room where he could look for Melania. Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign spent a total of $160 million, according to campaign finance reports. So for $160 million, he got 23,000 votes out of Iowa, which means he spent $7,000 per vote. People in Iowa were shocked when they discovered that they're worth $7,000. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem was banned from a reservation in that state after she expressed support for Texas's brutal tactics, stopping people from coming over the southern border. It must be refreshing for Native Americans to kick a white government official off of its land for once. Imagine being such an asshole and such a degenerate that they won't even welcome you to throw away your paycheck at a casino. Trump may be able to tell that 2024 may not be his year, as is evidence from his behavior at this past New Year's Eve party at Mar-a-Lago.
Donald Trump spent New Year's Eve looking pretty miserable at his Mar-a-Lago party, being entertained by rapper Vanilla Ice. If you're not sure who that is, never mind, it's not important. There was also a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Not super important to anyone who isn't in the cult, but the kind of year Trump is going to have legally turns out to be kind of important to the rest of us.
Like, he's bummed out at a party with Vanilla Ice and a Ninja Turtle. Like, what is he, 6?
But then also, vanilla charge for that.
What I want to know is how come only one of the turtles agreed to show up? Which one was it? You know?
This sounds like a bar mitzvah, because if he's that grumpy, he's probably 13 years old.
Leonardo will go anywhere. You know, it's like, come on.
When they said the turtle, it panned on Ivanka, so I actually thought she was speaking about Ivanka, one of the Ninja Turtles, and then I saw Ivanka's face. I was like, "Oh, is that what we call her now?"
Also, it's nice to see him try to modernize by bringing his knowledge of American culture like into the 1980s. Like, he's not quite in the 21st century yet, but he's getting there.
Right.
Ice, baby.
That's it. It was the vanilla that got him. He's like, oh, that sounds like white supremacy. Yeah, hire that guy.
It's not just supporters wearing campaign t-shirts that make the entire internet cringe, but piss poor attempts at song parodies. This is especially true if said song parodies are done around the holiday season, as this user demonstrates.
Howdy. Want to say Merry Christmas to all of you, and hope that you're all in good spirits and doing well. But I got a little Christmas ditty that I want to do for you that I borrowed a tune from another song for. And I want to send this out to all my Facebook family, friends, and supporters, and all you believers out there. It's Christmas, and anything can happen. So I hope you like this. Joe Biden got run over by the Trump train, walking toward the White House Christmas Eve. Now you can say there's no such thing as justice, but as for me and Trumpers, we believe.
So he took the time to write the song, search for the MIDI sound file, put it onto a cassette tape, it sounded like, pressed play, sing it, and then thought to himself, this is a great thing to post.
God bless him.
I'm just imagining all his friends that were, commenting on Facebook. Genius! Oh, genius! This is great. I need a copy of this. Genius.
I looked at the YouTube comments. You're not that far off.
Yeah.
While Trump barely phoned it in during his campaign stops in Iowa, with his position as the former president and his fan base, he really didn't have to do much, and his brain concurred, as we can see in this clip from a campaign stop earlier this month in the town of Newton.
We're losing our blood and we're losing our treasure doing this all over the world. We want to protect our country. And those domes are starting to work. I didn't like it when Ronald Reagan suggested it because we didn't have the technology. We do have the technology now. And we're going to build a giant dome over our country to protect us from a hostile source. And I think it's a great thing, and it's going to all be made in the United States. And that's something that I consider productive. When I watch our guys operate those things, it's unbelievable. Missile coming in. These geniuses sit down. Most of them are, they're from MIT, but they sit down, bing, 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 boom, it's gone. It's amazing. I think we could use one. Do you like that? Yes. I mean, isn't that better than giving other countries billions of dollars, billions? We're going to give billions of dollars to other countries and so they can build a dome, but we don't have a dome ourselves. We're going to have the greatest dome ever, but now we have the technology. We have unbelievable technology.
I think he's so suggestive that someone showed him the movies War Games and Biodome back to back fairly recently. And somehow he conflated the plots with his campaign talking points. I mean, that's what that sounds like.
The good news is, as a baseball fan, we'll never have another rain out.
That is very good. That's true. That's true. And you know what? Finally, like Northeast states like Maryland can host the Super Bowl.
There you go.
What's that?
Will it be a retractable roof?
Right.
Well, it's going to take in a couple extra bing bing booms, but we can make it happen.
I'm so confused. Is that what is a dome like just one big roof? Like, I'm so confused.
I think what he's talking about, like the dome, they call it the Golden Dome in Israel.
Dome. Yeah, Iron Dome.
Iron Dome. But listen, 4 more years of Trump, it turns into Thunderdome. So either way, it's all good.
No, I think that's it. Gina, Israel has a protective dome, figuratively, that didn't work 100% on October 7th when Israel was attacked. So I think that's what he's thinking of. And by the way, for the people not watching the video, there was a ad, like this was the Home Shopping Network, next to his fat face, plugging some nonsense. What was that stuff? What were they selling? Coins? Was it coins?
It was something like that. I have to let me
Like a Bitcoin? No.
Go back here and look at
I
this.
think it's actual coins.
Yep, there we go.
There it is.
The Birch Gold Group.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Hey, vey. We are so screwed.
But on the other hand, think of all the great podcasts we get to do.
Well, yes, yes. You know, when I lie in bed in fetal position thinking about the future that my daughter has ahead of her, I go, but you know what? At least there's podcast material. At least we have that.
You know, that's an interesting point, Devin, because people say to us as comedians, well, at least Trump's good for comedy. No, it's depressing as hell, and nobody wants to hear that.
Well, here, I disagree. Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes. We'll go on a quick tangent. Yes, he's good for comedy because he's a material machine. I mean, I've made fun of every president left and right since I started. No, he's bad for comedy because there's a small minority of his fans that go to comedy shows. Well, a lot of them go to comedy shows, but some of them are lunatics. I've never had more issues as a comedian with people sticking up for their president, their boyfriend, than I have had with Donald Trump. But I don't think that's the point of this podcast. But there's my 2 cents, which you can order when you get a Donald Trump gold coin.
It's not uncommon for presidential candidates to say one thing about their opponents and another when it comes time to end their campaigns, and Ron DeSantis is no exception, as we can see in this before and after video compilation.
You can be the most worthless Republican in America, but if you kiss the ring, he'll say you're wonderful. You can be the strongest, most dynamic, successful Republican and conservative in America, but if you don't kiss that ring, then he'll try to trash you. You know what? You deserve a nominee that's going to put you first, not himself first.
Majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him. Well, I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear, a repackaged form of warmed-over corporatism that Nikki Haley represents.
And off camera, someone's like, say these words or Snowflake the Dolphin gets it.
Talk about kissing the ring, though. He said he doesn't want Republicans to kiss the ring, and I'm not a Republican that's going to kiss the ring. And then that's what he did.
Yeah.
He didn't just kiss the ring; he was sucking the dick.
Yeah. Very graphic. Yeah. That was. Yeah, I never understand why we don't do, or maybe we will and do side by sides in ads and show this. I mean, you have to run it for the independents because Dems, we're not going to be pulled one way or the other, right? But we're in states where it matters. If you're concerned about flip-flopping and things like that, but I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter if he's out. I don't know.
Well, that could be played in if and when he runs again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or if he gets as he gets a position that's noteworthy in this, alongside the former guy.
But congratulate him, though, on having a Twitter announcement which didn't have any technical difficulties the way his entrance video did. At least he's mastered that.
Which we played, I think, last season on this podcast, and which the video's just been. I uploaded that video again, I think, earlier this week on the YouTube page. If you want to know if Nikki Haley's slavery remarks or a lack of acknowledgement thereof is enough of an awkward moment in her campaign, there is a possibility that this exchange with a young New Hampshire resident wearing a piece of her campaign merchandise may compete.
Hi, sweet girl. How are you? I love your hat. Thank you. What if your guys gave it to me for free? right now.
I'm glad she doesn't see him right now because he's currently tied up in the trunk of my car right now.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna point.
little girl, I want to take away your freedom to choose control over your own body, but I'll say it in a high voice and sound cute while I say it. Ha ha ha.
I love when Jeff gets disgusted.
She
I
is
just want to point out again, Tom, as we were talking about before, about working on political campaigns, what color are the hats she's giving out? Blue. What color are the jackets that I'm assuming these two women are wearing that say, what are the background colors? Blue. And Haley's in red. What are they thinking? You know?
What, because of all the blue?
Smart move.
Yeah, because of the blue. When you when on campaign literature and things like that, obviously she's got to distinguish herself from Trump.
Yeah.
By the same token, the primary color should be red. If I looked at that background, if I looked at that merchandise and I had no idea who she was,
Right.
I would immediately assume a Democrat.
Same.
That's the point, though. It's a smart move on their part because it tricks certain people who may not be, like Matt had pointed out, maybe not be paying attention and would vote for her. I almost think it's like a chess move kind of thing.
If she's trying to differentiate herself from Donald Trump and his ilk, then it may very well be a smart move.
Yeah, and to appeal to, independents who maybe tend to vote blue, to maybe vote for her instead. I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe. I mean, she differentiates herself from Trump though with that sweater too. I've never seen him in a sweater that says ski.
While detractors of former presidents hope they will be held legally accountable for actions they commit, it took until Donald Trump for such an occurrence to happen, hence the historic significance. In this clip from her interview with her attorneys Robbie Kaplan and Sean Crowley by her side, E. Jean Carroll sums up the verdict of her most recent legal action.
I have to ask you, President Trump has kept your name out of his mouth since being told he has to pay $83 million to you for what he's done in the past. But over the weekend, he did start posting links online to articles that attacked you and denied your claims. Again, he seems to be pushing it already in terms of whether or not he is going to go back to calling you a liar and denying that he did what he did. If it came to it, if your lawyers told you that there was another case and that you should go back and get more money out of him and sue him again, would you do it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It wasn't too much. It wasn't too much wear and tear on you. I mean, the guts factor here is real in terms of how much you put yourself out there. A lot of big, strong people have been wouldn't put themselves through what you've gone through.
Rachel, many people, as you know, have been through much worse than I went through at that trial. People suffered more difficult things than I've ever been through in my life. And I am more than willing to do it again because we achieved so much in a 7-day trial. We did what people thought was impossible. We beat Donald Trump.
I mean, in 4 words, E. Jean Carroll managed to sum up the impact of however many 100 years of American jurisprudence and however many years women have been taking on powerful men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love her confidence, and I love the fact that she said she'd do it again because he's going to say more stupid, defamatory things, and she'll take him on again, and she'll kick his ass again.
Mm-hmm. I think he's already done it again. I think he's
skirting the line.
Yeah,
he's skirting the line. Yeah, and I personally really agree. I don't think he's going to be able to contain himself, and it really might bankrupt him. I wish I had a sense of what his pile of money is worth or his properties or whatever, because I really think he's going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel pretty soon.
His finances, he's already been scraping the bottom of many barrels for many years.
Exactly. I mean, I've always wondered, is this going to set
a precedent now for future cases and other trials. And how is that going to play out in the court system?
And the thing that made me the most happy was the interview that E. Jean Carroll did after the verdict, when somebody said, "What are you going to do with the money?" And she said, "Whatever will irritate Trump the most, whatever will upset him the most." So she has already started a fund that other women raped by Donald T. Trump can apply to for help with their healing. Brilliant.
And following up on what Polite asked, it should give other women confidence to sue him, because there are other victims of his bad acts. So I think this will give more rise to more litigation.
Oh.
Before we go, my final thought. I like to take all of you on a journey. We will be going forward to the year 2055. You're walking along the beach and admiring the southern coastline, thinking how strange it is that you're doing this as you're visiting Nashville. On your walk, you come across a bridge and are startled by the rustling of foliage. You examine the source of the rustling, and a small gnome pops out. The gnome is dressed in tattered clothes and smells of tequila and Axe body spray. You ask his name, and he becomes indignant. "You mean you don't know? You don't recognize me?" the gnome asks. You reply that you don't, at which point the gnome says, "I'm Ron DeSantis!" in a shrill scream. Ah, you should have guessed. Even though the clothes are rags, the pristine white boots are recognizable. Although now they come up to his hips, which explains why the gnome walks like the 1977 version of Fat Elvis without drugs. The Ron DeSantis gnome tells you that after Florida succumbed to the rising sea level caused by a storm surge, which will be known in future history books with the status of the new classification of Category 10 Super Hurricane Dwayne, Ron DeSantis had no choice but to find the nearest bridge under which he could seek shelter and start a new life. Throughout the years since the inundation of Florida, the DeSantis gnome has sought to steal provisions from boats and seaplanes trying to flee to a drier climate, which doesn't exist, as everything not underwater in this country is now on fire. Slowly saving his resources, the Ron DeSantis gnome is ready to stage his big comeback. He is preparing to rule in an underwater fiefdom. His book bans are already in full force, as he doesn't even have to stage a book burning. The offending texts in question will be easily gobbled up thanks to the superplankton that exists as a result of the trifecta disaster, nuclear spill / toxic waste spill / earthquake that occurred under the presidency of Bubba Boebert, Lauren's grandson, in 2049. Everything is in place now, and the gnome version of Ron DeSantis has no more time to talk. So he swims off, as he has a lot to do, what with trying to merge the underwater cities of Tampa, Mobile, Alabama, and Biloxi, Mississippi, so he can anoint himself the region's aquatic super governor, resulting in what will be his 10th consecutive run for the White House. All he has to do is reincarnate Diamond of Diamond and Silk, and he will have his winning presidential ticket. Good night. This episode was written and hosted by Tom Myers with panelists Jeff Hyson, Gina Brown, Michelle Wojciechowski, Polite Kitty, Chip Jones, Valerie Pascal, Davin Rosenblatt, Joshua Postel, Matt Connarton, and Lucy Strassball. Theme music composed and arranged by Jeroen Vandenheurik. Executive producers Tom Myers, Matt Connarton for ipmNation, and Eddie Carson for Odyssey Radio. Please leave a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Tom Myers, for ad-free episodes, extended episodes, and bonus clips. Thank you for listening, and please visit tommyers.us.